Hello, it's called Bryan here from thegreatgordino.com, and this video I've called Depression and the Power of the Nothing Thought. Now, it's not a particularly cheerful title, is it, you might think, but depression is something that affects a huge amount of people. In fact, 1 in 4 people in their lifetime will be affected by mental health issues of some sort or another. I know all about depression. I've had personal experience of going through it. Extremely bad depression. The first incidence was in 1997, nearly 20 years ago. I've had a couple of relapses since, and it's affected me right up to this day. So, depression and the power of the nothing thought. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, one of the things when we get depression, and when I first got it particularly, was I couldn't understand what was going on. I got bombarded by these thoughts of unhappiness, thoughts of why I was feeling the way I was feeling now. Why couldn't I get rid of those feelings by thinking of the good times I'd thought before, or thinking of the good times I'll be having in the future? Why couldn't I think myself out of it? And what happens is when you get this why can't I think myself out of it phase, combined with the adrenaline rush that you get with depression, it's a vicious circle of the fight or flight syndrome. And when you get the fight or flight syndrome, if you can't change your situation, you try and think your way out of the situation. If that doesn't work, it releases more adrenaline, which makes you feel more anxious. You try harder to think yourself out of it. That doesn't work, releases more adrenaline, you feel more anxious. You get the idea with that one. It's a vicious circle and it's self-perpetuating. And it leaves you overwhelmed with thoughts. Your brain cannot cope with the amount of thoughts it thinks. And then sometimes, bang, you'll snap to a numbness where you think nothing. You're thinking nothing. It's a blankness, it's a numbness. Now when you sway between this blank numbness and the overwhelm of all the thoughts at once, it's not a happy place to be. It's not a good place to be. It's a dangerous place to be, because a lot of people, when they're in that place, they can't see an end to it, so they end their lives. Suicide is a big killer, particularly for men, young men and men of a middle age, but obviously it applies to women as well. And when I talk about the power of the nothing thought, it's a huge help on the road to recovery from depression. And as I say, this is personal experience I'm talking about, so I know it worked for me and I know it can help other people out there. So what do I mean? Do I mean that you should try and when you're overwhelmed with thoughts, you should try and push the overwhelming thoughts out to get to a nothingness behind it? No, I'm not saying that, because what that does is it goes back to this circle of trying to force away certain thoughts and replacing them with other thoughts. And if that doesn't work, you get the adrenaline rush, you get the anxiety, you try harder, doesn't work, anxiety, adrenaline, and so on. So I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that you should pay attention to your thoughts, but not try and analyze them or change them. So when you get the overwhelm of thoughts, you might get a thought, oh, it didn't used to be like that. Just acknowledge it. Don't try and think it didn't used to be like that, therefore it should be better today. Don't think it didn't used to be like that, therefore I'm going to make it so it's okay tomorrow. Just think, acknowledge the thought, it didn't used to be like that. When you get a thought that says it might be like this tomorrow as well, Don't try and fight against that thought. Don't try and think, oh, I'm not going to cope if it's like this tomorrow. I better try and do something about it. Just acknowledge the thought. It might be like this again tomorrow. And when you get the blankness and the numbness, don't try and think, oh God, I need to replace that with a thought of something good and positive and what I'm going to do with myself, how I'm going to get over it. No, just accept it and acknowledge it as a time of a nothing thought. That's where the help can come in, because if you acknowledge it as a nothing thought, it gives your brain just time to relax. And when your brain has that time to relax, you can stop the overwhelm. You can give the brains and the chemical reactions going on in your brain a chance to settle down. You can give the neural firing offs that are happening in your brain a time to calm down. And the nothing thought can be really helpful in that process. So, depression and the power of the nothing thought. Sometimes, if someone's got depression, one of the biggest things you can do to help them is just to listen to them, because listening to them will help them get out some of their thoughts. And when they get out some of these thoughts that have been overwhelming them, without you challenging them, without you trying to correct them, without you trying to offer different thoughts, if you listen to them, to let them get the thoughts out, that can free the space in their brain for the nothing thought and the peace and the relaxation and the progress that can come from the power of the nothing thought. So I hope you find that content helpful. If you've got depression, if you've had depression, if you know someone with depression. If you have found that helpful, leave a comment below, let me know. Wherever you happen to be seeing this video. Pop over and see me at the blog, thegreatgordino.com. Pop over and see me at Facebook, facebook.com/thegreatgordino. And it's Gordon Bryan signing off for now. I look forward to seeing you again soon.